process. Joe Biden says President Trump is trying to, quote, indirectly steal the election by arguing that mail-in ballots don't work. President calls mail-in voting dangerous. Plus, we're now a few days into Maryland's new face mask mandate. You must wear a mask in public places and outdoors when you cannot social distance. So let's jump into the conversation. Our guests this week, Brad Polumbo and Jason Nichols. Good morning to both of you. It's good to see you guys. Let's start with the election right now. We're getting closer and closer and closer to it. And now more questions continue to pop up about mail-in ballots. Absentee ballots, mail-in ballots, they've been around for a long time. A lot of people have not used them. Brad, let's start with you. What do you think?
Well, you know, it's not a popular thing to say in our hyper-partisan era, but two things can be true at once. One, it was wildly irresponsible for President Trump to float changing the date of the election, and that is not going to happen. That's up to Congress, not him. Not going to happen. Yet at the same time, you know, there is a valid reason to be concerned about mass mail-in ballots for the first time just 90 days before an election. It's not that there's some widespread voter fraud or 3 million illegal aliens that are going to vote. No, it's not that. It's simply that this is a huge systemic change right before the election. In New York, they have 2 congressional races that weeks later, they still don't know who won, and they've had to disqualify thousands of ballots that were improperly sent in. So there are fair concerns here.
And, you know, Jason, one of the concerns is that if this race is anywhere close, it could take weeks, potentially longer, before you decide who is the next president of the United States. That being said, concerns on your part, and if so, what are they?
No, I really don't have as many concerns. First of all, when we talk about vote by mail, VBM, we have to understand that 25% of Americans vote by mail already. We have very few examples of fraud. Things that the president is talking about in terms of foreign intervention are nearly impossible. Even Chris Krebs, a Trump administration official, said that it is impossible for them to print a bunch of ballots and sneak them in our system. I think this is safe. One of the things that we also need to understand is most states have a barcode so you can actually track your ballot. You know, ballot harvesting is extremely rare. So I think we're pretty safe with vote by mail. It could take a while, but I think Americans can be patient. And we also would probably still learn who is more likely to win the election at the end of, the evening that, after the election. So I don't really have as many concerns when you already have 25% of Americans voting by mail.
Jason, you'd be okay mailing in a ballot today?
Absolutely. I mailed in a ballot last time.
Brad, what about you?
Last 2 presidential elections, 25%.
I voted absentee in 2016, and it's not that there's anything inherently wrong with voting by mail. However, the real problem is switching the entire country. You have 5 states, I believe, that already voted by mail in large numbers. But switching the entire country to with such little time to go, there's obvious logistic problems there. I mean, in New York, you literally had thousands of people's votes disqualified because they didn't have a post timestamp, or there's all sorts of systemic issues going on. The post office overwhelmed, right? So this idea that there's no issues, to me, seems naive, right? There are some serious issues, but we can solve them. I do think we can solve them.
Go ahead, Jason. Final word, and then we'll get on with the second half.
Yeah, I was going to say that elections always have problems. I don't remember, Florida not having problems. We're always going to have problems. To act like this is somehow more problematic than any of the other elections we've had, I can't remember there ever being a time where there wasn't a question about voting. I'm old enough to remember hanging chads and all these kinds of issues. People want paper ballots. There are always issues to fix, but vote by mail is no more problematic than the system that we already have.
Jason, I want to keep it with you right now as we move on to the second half. Problem number 1 of the summer seems to be the coronavirus. You are in Maryland, and Maryland now putting more stringent restrictions in place. What do you think about that?
I think it's the safe thing to do. I think most business owners realize that this is how we keep our businesses open. We're still under 5% transmission in Maryland, as opposed to states like Louisiana or Texas or Florida or Arizona or California. And we want to stay that way. And I think most people realize this is the thing to keep us safe and that the experts are recommending. So I'm all for what Governor Hogan is doing. I was My family was just at the beach recently, and people were walking around without face coverings, and then hospitalization has risen. So we want to keep people safe in Maryland, and I think the governor made the right decision.
Brad, what do you think? You get the final word here, and do you feel more safe going outside now than you did in May or June?
Well, certainly, and that's in part because of mask wearing. And I think it's best when we leave these kinds of decisions up to local communities and businesses, right? So Walmart passing a mask mandate is best for everyone involved. I do have some concerns about the enforcement of mask mandates. I mean, we do have serious problems, as we've seen in recent months, about interactions between police and everyday people. And anytime you pass a new law like that, that is a concern. But people should be wearing masks, and that is the way that we're going to be able to reopen the economy, reopen businesses safely eventually. And so that's something that I'm glad to see Governor Hogan and Maryland encouraging people to do.
Brad, Jason, thanks for joining us this morning and being our Monday morning quarterbacks. Hope to see you guys again soon.
Thanks, guys.
Absolutely. 7:38 right now. Angie?